Good evening, my dear colleagues. Welcome to another INGET Zoom series talk. Today, our guest is Dr. Sibel Söğüt from the ELT department, Sinop University. Her research interests include language teacher education, language testing, second language writing, and corpus linguistics. This evening, the title of her talk is Gender Stereotypes in English Language Teaching Materials. Thank you, dear Sibel Hocam, for being our guest speaker, and welcome again. The screen is all yours.
Thank you so much for this great introduction, Aydın Hocam, and it's a pleasure for me to be part of this INGET series, because I watch your series and there are some earth-shaking talks that are delivered by the experts of the area. And hello and welcome everybody. Thank you for taking your time to join us today. Aydın Hocam, thank you as well for giving me the chance to become a part of this series. In today's series, I will be focusing on the gender stereotypes in English language teaching materials. In today's session, we will cover this topic with a focus on their significance on the learners, because these materials, the representation of gender stereotypes in these materials, unfortunately, has the negative consequences on the learners with crucial behavioral influences. Sometimes they hinder their motivation as they contain some stereotypical content. That is the reason why I chose this topic as the scope of today's session. And the purpose of this session is multidimensional, actually. First of all, I aim at discussing the presentation of gender portrayals in English language teaching materials. Then I will move on to the next stage by sharing some sample visuals, texts, and findings of the research studies. Then I will go on with the possible solutions and suggestions to overcome this problematic issue, the existence of this problematic content in the materials. So in line with my purpose, I have this outline. First of all, I will introduce you with the definition of the key terms, because I have to clarify what I mean by gender stereotype. Then I will move on to the next step by elaborating the significance of the topic. And then I will talk about the ways to identify a gender bias content, because we will need it in choosing and designing our classroom materials. And I will also exemplify some the research findings, striking findings of the research studies in the recent years, conducted in the recent years. Then I have analyzed the content of some textbooks and classroom materials. I will try to provide a brief overview of what we provide to the learners and how we can examine the gender biased content. So in this part, we will have an interactive session and I will get your responses in relation to the gender portrayals in these materials. Then in the final part, I will talk about some suggestions that are proposed by the scholars in this research area and my own humble views, let's say. And first of all, I would like to start with a brief definition of what a gender stereotype is. As you know, we hear gender issues. They are addressed under the scope of gender stereotypes, gender construction, gender equality, gender equity, or gender bias. And this is a very universal topic because the researchers conduct studies examining the visibility or invisibility of gendered discourse in different textbooks in various educational settings. And this is a very persistent topic as well, because they are persistent to change. we still have stereotypical content in our classroom materials. And this is a very significant topic because they have the risk of affecting the students' mindsets and their decisions as well, their life choices as well, which we will elaborate in the forthcoming parts. So during the whole session, I will use gender stereotype to refer to the collective representation that link gender groups with roles and attributes. I mean the gender groups as male and female characters, and the roles or attributes to the career, family, or science or arts. And the gender, we observe gender stereotypes through within the scope of invisibility, unreality, trivialization, and objectification. And these all keywords just provide us with a significant question. Do the materials that we have in English language teaching area keep up with the changes in the gender equality taking place in real world? This should be the #1 question that we have to bear in mind while choosing the classroom materials. And as for the significance of the topic, I will first of all try to pay attention to the prominent role of textbooks as classroom materials, because students spend as much as 80 to 95% of their time through the use of these textbooks, and teachers, especially in EFL context, make their decisions considering the content on the textbook. So both the teachers and the students are exposed to the potential gender stereotypical content that are visible in the English language textbooks. But we have other materials as well, like the learner's exposure to the topic. The topic choice is also very crucial. The pictures, example sentences, reading passages, audio scripts, and the dialogues and the turn taking in the dialogues, discussion questions, and the other activities involved in the books, in the textbooks. So here, the reason why we have to pay specific attention to the role of textbook is that they do not only teach the language, but they also convey some hidden agendas. And these students just internalize the messages that are conveyed within the scope of these hidden agendas, and they adjust these perspectives into their reactions in gender-related situations. And their academic success and their life choices are also affected in line with the content of these in these textbooks, and some of their negative perceptions and viewpoints are also cultivated through the use of exposure to these content. And their negative viewpoints about women's competency are also affected, unfortunately, and their cognitive processes, judgments, decision-making, and consequently, their behaviors are shaped and affected in a great extent through the use of these textbook content. And another crucial issue here is that their self-identity is also largely affected, and their sense of themselves in the society is also largely influenced through the potential gender stereotypical content. So I have $1 million question here. So far we have talked about the definition of the terminology. I have clarified the terminology, and I have provided an overview of the significance of the English language teaching materials or instructional materials in the setting and their connection to the students' language learning processes and their life within the classroom and outside the classroom. Now it is time to talk about the ways to identify gender-biased content. A review of literature shows us a number of set criteria to actually examine, to present the ways that we have to bear in mind while analyzing a textbook or any instructional material content. First of all, we can have a focus on the character type, the educational function, and role of the character. So these categories and criteria would help us expand and enhance our perspective to the potential gender stereotypical content visible in the course books and other classroom materials. And the interaction between or among the characters, the geographical and cultural areas that the characters are located, their social, occupational, and family functions are also crucial in identifying a gender-biased content. And the gendered attributes, like the physical attributes, the personality or character traits, and the activities and actions that are carried out by the different genders, have also significant, these are also significant indicators of gender-biased content. We have to bear them in mind because while analyzing the examples, we will need them in just presenting our viewpoints in relation to whether we have gender-biased content or not. And Sunderland here elaborates that this analysis, a gender-biased discourse, can be guided by raising some questions. I have listed these questions here. What is the gender composition of the dialogues? Who speaks first? Who speaks most in mixed gender dialogues? And what language functions the male and female or female and male participants exemplify? The order of mention also matters here. I will also exemplify the contents. Here, Sunderland also provides three basic categories on the bias against women. The first one is exclusion. Sometimes the classroom materials present males over females, and subordination or distortion, which happen to be the men's occupying more powerful roles or a greater range of occupational roles than women, and degradation where women tend to be stereotypically emotional. And we will see some examples as well in relation to each of these categories and criteria. And in a very recent study, Selvi and Kocaman proposed some sample categories and criteria to identify gender-biased content as well. They examine female-male ratio, the frequency of gendered words, and there's some negative and positive representations, such as the existing gender stereotypes in the tasks and interests of the characters, and the challenging the stereotypes that challenge both genders. And occupational visibility is another category where they pay specific attention on the participation of both genders on the occupations in different domains. And generic use of men, which we already know, the generic use of he and men is also another significant, another significant indicator of what we have, what we can pay attention to in identifying a gender-biased content. And the order of mention is another category where we see he, she, or girls and boys, and ladies, gentlemen, or vice versa. So these are some useful categories and criteria that the teachers may also use as a checklist while preparing classroom materials or while having a critical eye on the classroom materials. And overall, we see that these are the overall criteria that we can use. So the textual evidence show us that the quantitative analysis of the text and illustrations is one way of analysis. And the content and textual analysis is another way that we can analyze the gender biased discourse or content. And within the framework of critical discourse analysis, we see one line of research focusing on the gender biased content and their stereotypical representations. So, in line with what we have so far, I have also analyzed some sample research studies. Now, I will briefly talk about them, the findings of the research studies. Overall, we see a low visibility of female characters in the classroom materials, and specifically in English language teaching course books. And we see male reference heavily outnumbering the female reference. And we see a diverse role of men attributed to male characters, whereas we see some limited roles attributed to female characters. And these roles are just the student, bank employee, teacher, nurse, and housewife. So we see some common patterns of gender bias in these categorization. And these studies also revealed a male first ordering. And in line with these problems and problematic content, some publishing houses and actually the agencies are proposing guidelines to minimize sexist language in their publications. We will see whether they are successful or not. So overall, we see that women are also portrayed to a large extent to play domestic and traditional social roles, such as cooking, knitting, and babysitting. And they participate in limited social roles like fashion designing or shopping, and all in all, we see that they also suffer from unequal treatment in doing business, on achieving some high-level positions in the society. So these are the reflections of what we have been just covering so far. So in a recent study, Selvi and Kocaman examined the representation of gender and sexuality in handouts prepared by the Material Development Unit of an intensive English language teaching program at a higher education institution. And they revealed that men had more visibility than women in these handouts, and male characters were more frequently used than female characters at different ratios, but the overall frequency was more compared to female characters, and men were associated with illegal activities, and they are more associated with being experts in what they do. And this study also figured out that the men are more visible and multidimensional, except for occupations related to family. And they also identified more male pronoun or noun, which was mentioned first 96.9% of the time. So there was another interesting research finding in this study. We are used to just seeing the generic use of he and men, but they also revealed the generic use of she in these handouts, which is good news. So this is a very striking example. I want you to take your time and read this example, and we will comment on it. Okay, you can type your opinions on the chat box. And your feelings when you hear this, maybe you see this dialogue or this picture. So we see that as a first impression, we can think that a bullfighter is a female, which is good, right? It's just disrupting the gender stereotypical views that we have. But later we see that there is a commentary on this woman's job, and they look like a ballerina, then a matador outside the arena, and they comment about the physical appearance of the woman. So while examining such classroom materials that we bring to the class, to the learners, probably a critical eye would help us to reveal such gender stereotypical content. And I would like to briefly talk about my research study, which I conducted to examine the distribution of gender roles in high school ELT course books, where I put a specific emphasis on job and adjective attributions. Zuhal Hocam has already delivered a session in INGET series where she talked about the overall gender stereotypes in English language teaching. So I have watched her video as well, and I have seen this citation as well, where she elaborated the gender stereotypical job attributions. As you see in this table, the jobs here are, actually, I would like to first of all talk about the numerical evidence that I have. Overall, in this study, I have figured out 32 occurrences of jobs that are attributed to female characters and 70 jobs that are attributed to male characters. So it's nearly twice. And so the male characters, as you see also in this table, are attributed with more diverse jobs. Both the number and variety differs from the female characters. So there is a stereotypical representation. And when you have a look at the prestige of these jobs, probably you will see some differences between the female and male characters as well. We see some traditional attributions that are that is evident to female characters, but as for the adjective attributions, the picture is worse. I want you to have a look at this list of adjectives and tell me what you feel about this list. When you have a look at the similarities and differences between the adjective attributions to female and male characters. So I will check the love. Okay. I don't know, John, it's a nice answer. I have highlighted some of the words, which may be clue for you. Some, we see some adjectives. I will check the responses. Females are seen weak. Exactly, ignorant. Yes. And look at the words that are emphasized here. We see the attribution of adjectives to male characters, and these adjectives mostly have positive connotations like famous, incredible, excellent, respective, etc. But when we have a look at the list of adjectives attributed to female characters, we see the adjectives with negative connotations occurring more frequently than the positive connotation, the adjectives with positive connotations. So this is what we can see in this picture, what we can tell about this picture. So in another study, scholars examined the EFL teaching materials in the Chinese context, and they revealed an obvious and hidden sexist language. And they revealed that many females turn to males for help when in difficulty, but not a single male turned for help to the female characters in the overall coursebook content. And females are also portrayed as timid and flustered, while males are calm and brave. But females tend to be the image of the weak, as Ilknur has provided as an answer in the previous one, right? And poor. And there were 27 figures that are represented as being successful or influential, but 20 were about males. So this is the overall finding of this research study. And I have another research study where the researchers examined 2 editions of a popular international English language textbook for equality of gender representation. They examined these editions in different time periods, and they revealed that gender bias has reduced to some extent, but in the newer editions of the textbooks, especially in the case of images and illustrations in the textbooks, but much more changes needed at the level of the current equality guidelines proposed by the publishing companies and the independent organizations or the Ministry of National Education. So this is their overall finding. As for another recent study, which I have conducted with my friends, Atasever Belli, we focused on gender representation in the TV and movie subtitles of the subcorpora of the corpus of contemporary American English. I would like to give this example because recent course books are produced from the corpus of contemporary American English, and we have corpus-driven course books in the recent years, and many publishing companies use different types of corpora, and as the corpus of contemporary American English is the largest available corpus online with 1 billion words, I would like to present this example because our students are likely to see the language content from this corpus, as we have many corpus-driven materials in the classroom. So we analyzed the collocational and grammatical behaviors of gendered noun pairs, women, men, girls, and boys. And we focused on the order of mention, the adjectival modification, and the verb collocations of these noun pairs. And we identified, we have used 525 million word tokens to conduct this research. So we can say that it's a representative picture of the co-occurrence of the grammatical and collocational behavior of these gendered nouns. And we can say that this is an overall picture of the informal spoken medium, as TV and movie subtitles are treated as the informal parts of the COCA corpus, as Davis provided in his article. And as a result of our examination, we revealed that verbal verbs are mostly associated with women, like speak, talk, and there are material verbs like invent and spend, and they are mostly co-occurring with men in the TV and movie subtitles. And men were found to seldom occur with the verbs of feeling, which is another striking finding of our research. And we also revealed that the verbs of feeling like love, want, and feel were mostly associated with women and girls. And we also revealed that there were certain corporeal verbs like die and kill, and bodily gestures and interactions like stand and leave, which are associated with men. And as for the adjective collocations, we revealed that the physical identification are relatively more commonly used with women and girls, whereas the adjectives just the adjectives are used to structure the discourse by portraying them sexually and representing them in the context of physical appearance. And these adjectives modify their age, status, power. The adjectives used for male characters were modifying their age, status, power, or orientation. So there is a discrepancy in the use of adjectives between the male and female characters. And I would like to exemplify some words like perfect, nice, hot, cool. They are some traditional feminine traits, including being beautiful, emotional, and attractive. And women in TV and movie subtitles were found to be sexually portrayed through the use of collocations, heavy use of actually. Collocations like hot, hottest, sexy, naked, whereas the words used for male characters reflect some masculine traits like strong, aggressive, threatening, and these words were mostly dangerous, brave, powerful, violent, holy. So this is what we have found in the overall data. So all in all, we can say that we have gender stereotypical representations on TV and in movies. And we have figured out it in the written data, but the learners are exposed to it in their daily lives as well. Sometimes we recommend the learners to watch movies with subtitles in order to improve their pronunciations. And as an instructional materials, these are also just posing some dangers to the learners by cultivating this stereotypical content in their mindsets. So now it is time to conduct a more interactive session. And so far we have talked about how to identify the gender-biased content in a classroom material. And I have also elaborated the findings of the recent research studies conducted on this topic. Now I have analyzed some of the national and international publishing companies and their course books. And I have figured out some examples for you. Now, I would like to get your opinions and feelings about this content. First of all, we will see this piece of text. So when you read this text, what would be one point that grabs your attention as far as gender stereotypes are considered? Yes, exactly, hocalarım. His wife, yes, Silan. His wife and no mention on his name, right, exactly. Women were either someone's wife or someone's mother. Exactly, hocam, yes. And yeah, there is a second order right naming the who's or no one, exactly. We don't see any identity, explicit announcement of woman's identity. We see a role, a social role, rather than an identity here, right? And two children, right? Okay, exactly. And I would like to provide you with another example, which is more concrete, more visible, more traditional that we are used to seeing. So here we see two football players and a woman cooking in the kitchen, right? Yes, female in the kitchen, housewife, yeah, domestic content, right, exactly. And I have another one. She feels angry and sad. Imagine that we provide this picture to the students and just tell them to fill in the blanks with other words. They will probably limit their choices in line with what we give them as a language input, right? So this is another content. And I have another picture here where their social roles are limited to shopping, right? They are quite happy and they are shopping. Yes. What about this picture? Yes, spending money, not making money. Exactly. Yes. We are eating dinner at the moment. So you see the man being served by the mother, right? His wife, or yes, the female character is serving, right? Probably she has also cooked. Yeah, she seems, yeah, exactly. We can also make use of the facial expressions, right? Subservient, exactly, hocam. Yes. And what about this one? When I have a look at such pictures, I count the number of characters. And I try to have a look at whether there is a balance in the overall number of the characters, the division of the characters. But later I go deeper. And now I want you to go deeper and have a look at this stereotypical or potential stereotypical content. Yes, İlknur Hocam, we see feminine and masculine jobs, right? If you give this as a task to the students and tell them to divide masculine and feminine jobs, they will probably, yeah, make use of these pictures. Men are represented less. It's another stereotype. The outfit. Yeah, actually, Hocam, Pelin Hocam, they are trying to be inclusive. As far as I know, in the recent years, the publication companies are trying to be inclusive and they put such contents. But I'm not sure, I'm not the expert in this area. So, but my personal opinion is that they are trying to be inclusive. So there is no woman with a hijab. All right. We don't see the country of origin. Yeah, we have a female surgeon and a doctor. Exactly. Yes. So we see some traditional attributes actually, like the sort of probably a teacher, but we see a more balanced distribution of the number of the roles here, right? We see the engineer. This is another typical job attribution to male characters, but we don't see a female engineer or a shop assistant. So yes, exactly. Yeah, here comes another one. I want you to have a careful look at this one. This is one of the most recent course books that is published by, I think, by a national company here, by the Ministry of National Education, I think. We see a family here. I want you to have a look at their description of their responsibilities. What do you see here? Yes. Pelin Hocam. Yeah. Mehmet is such a great man for helping. Helps my mom, Defne Hocam, yes. The verb should have been sharing, an excellent comment, yes. The roles are equally shared, yeah. At the first, yeah, my first impression was also the same way, but when I have a look at the content carefully, I see the verb help. It looks like the main responsibility of these household chores is the mother's responsibility, and the other members of the family are helping her. So this is the main message that we can see here. So the verb help here, he really helps my mom. I help my mom to take care of my brother. It is also the mother's responsibility, not the father's, right? This is the message that we have here. He also helps us, and we do our best to help her. So these are the repetitive use of help actually conveys a lot of hidden messages here. So the parents specifically asked the son to keep his room tidy, but the girl is automatically responsible. Yes, exactly, hocam. So the girl is also responsible for reminding the responsibilities of the brother, right? Yes. So this is the overall interpretation that we can have. I have another example here. This is a very explicit one, probably. You see the woman's emotions. Yes, Sibel hocam. Yeah, unfortunately, a true story for many women, İlknur hocam. Exactly. But these are cultivated. These are just taught to the learners and to the people in the society as we see. This classroom content as the source of input would probably cause, a lot of negative consequences on the learner's mindsets. We see that the woman is the victim here, and the man here is the doer of the action, which is terrifying, a murderer or a thief. So yeah, this is another scary content that we have. Thief or murderer, it could have been a okay, yes. Yes, hocam, hocam. Female students will have nightmares. Yeah, they also have, hocam, probably these materials, these contents, stereotypical contents in the course books have the potential to limit our choices in our lives, in the female's life. I will exemplify a research study conducted by the University of Washington here. They examined the gender-biased content. Actually, this was, I will try to relate it to our topic. University of Washington conducted a study on the effects of classroom decor on the choice of academic discipline. And they have decorated 2 rooms. In one room, they decorated the room with traditionally nerdy male content like the Star Trek posters, comic books, and video games. And the other room, the second room, is decorated with more neutral objects like coffee cups, plants, and art posters. And they conducted this study, and as a result of this study, they revealed that female college students who spent time in the first traditionally nerdy classroom exhibited more markedly preference for computer science compared to the female students who were in the classroom with neutral objects. And for the males, it made no difference. So, Sibel hocam, your sentence inspired me to give this example because the female students probably have negatively affected by this content more compared to the male students. So it is another striking example in line, it's not about the gender stereotypes, but even the classroom decoration would have an effect on their life choices, let alone the other content that we make them get exposed to. Yes, I have this example, and Susan and Donna are making some preparations for a housewarming party. And I want you to have a look at this dialogue and tell me what maybe, how can we associate it with a gender stereotypical portrayal. Yes, they're sharing some responsibilities in completing some kitchen work, right? Is there a man in the scene? I don't know, John. Actually, yes, I have omitted this part because the man was just, as far as I remember, just giving the phone to Susan and then just leaving the stage. So probably, yeah, it would now it would have provided a composite picture of the case, right? Yeah, I wish I would have put it as well. Okay. If it is a girls' party, no hocam, zero hocam. It's not a girls' party. There were boys as well. But we see even the responsibilities shared by the woman may convey some stereotypical portrayals. Yes, now it is another striking example that I would like to share with you. In one of my classes, the topic was about the culture and representation of cultural elements in the textbooks. And we also talk about this topic, and I provided this example to my students. The example sentence in item A. And I told, after covering the topic, I told them to figure out the wrong part in this sentence. And can you guess what the result is? Imagine that they are asked, I ask a question about what's wrong in this, yeah. Yes, Pelin, yes, you are good at, yes, identifying how can a dad make a decision of buying a car alone in a family? Yes. None of the students realize this gender stereotypical content here, and they say that there's something wrong with the grammar of this sentence. So that was the case. They focused on the grammar and the sentence structure, and I told them to focus on the content and the meaning of this, and they say that there is not a correspondence between the syntax and semantics in this sentence. So that was the further explanation. And it is a pity because the students do not even realize the gender stereotypical portrayals, because we probably internalize these messages and we don't see anything wrong in this content. And yeah, all very normal to what they are used to. Exactly, Hocam. And we teachers should take her out, and women has no reproductive role compared to men. If it is the work event comes first, if it is entertainment, it's about one's awareness, but also students are obsessed with grammar. Yes, Ignor. This is another viewpoint. And I talked about this topic before delivering this talk with Ignor Hocam, Ignor Keçik Hocam, and she has actually brought another perspective. She said that probably the students' families have some stereotypical responsibility sharing in the family. That's why they have their parental roles that are already assigned default. That may be the reason why they cannot even realize some stereotypical content. They don't have a working mother, for example, and that may be the reason why they may not, because of the social structure in the family, they may have difficulties in identifying the stereotypical content, but they are prospective English language teachers. So they have to have a critical lens, right, in response to the potential gender stereotypical content. And I have another example. I think this is my last example. This is a screenshot from one of the international publishing companies, the course book published by an international publishing company. I want you to have a careful look at how the female and male characters spent their time and tell me what may be wrong here. Yes, I don't know, John. They're ultra active, exactly. And what about the activities carried out indoors, outdoors? Exactly, İlknur Hocam, yes. Men, I want to spend, exactly. Yeah, one is exception, but the others. Oh, activities of men require creativity. Yes, Büşra Hocam, exactly. This is a wonderful perspective. Guys are all out to have fun on their own. Yes, the girls are very passive. Exactly, Hocam, and they are assigned with some activities carried out indoors. Yeah, she's writing songs, which is good. Women do visiting, doing shopping, nothing about productivity. Yeah, exactly. Playing video games, right? It's another probably receptive activity. Natalia's activities require creativity. Yeah. We have more balanced representations, exactly. In outdoor activities require more physical strength. We have to be optimistic. Okay. All right. So we have analyzed some potentially gender stereotypical content. It is time to be more optimistic. Now, when I see this picture, I just put a smile on my face because we are used to seeing mothers just carrying their babies. So this is an exceptional, I think, photo. And we are also used to seeing women in the kitchen and they're just cooking and doing the chores at home. So this is another example which may probably be an exception. And this is another one where we see men sharing chores in home. They were just sharing the responsibilities in completing some chores, right? You see, and the number of characters are equally distributed here. So it may be some, after just providing many heartbreaking examples, it's time to just provide some good news. But yeah. Yeah, if it is cooking, women, yeah, being a professional chef, we use men. All right. So, okay. The representation of heroic characters in the course books may also cultivate another stereotypical perspective among the students. This example here illustrates us the representation of the heroic characters. Do you see the female characters as well, right? Their representation in the history. And we are used to seeing some male heroic characters in the course books, but in the latest versions of the course book, we see some females that are successful in politics, science, literature, sports, and arts. So we see this representation. Okay. So far we have elaborated and interpreted some examples of classroom materials, instructional materials. And we have delved into their potential gender stereotypical content. Yes, Serap Hocam, there seems to be a gradual change of gender representation, maybe and hopefully we will talk about it in the conclusion part as well. Wonderful. So one potential negative impact would be the limiting the learners' choices in terms of their lifestyles, career selections, and distorting their self-images as well, and the images of the opposite sex. So this is a very, I think, striking consequence of the gender stereotypical portrayals. These portrayals also impair their abilities to understand the target language and its culture. And they also have a negative impact on the women's learning. And gender here overall is a powerful ideological device which produces, reproduces, and legitimates the choices and the limits. That's the reason why we have to pay specific attention on the consequences. Here you will see an interaction between a preschool child and aide. And here we will see a consequence of the cultivation of a stereotypical behavior on the child's mindset. Let's read this dialogue between the preschool child and the aide and see what happens here. So he doesn't want to be a king because he's a boy. Yes, exactly, Zülal Hocam. So in order to avoid the articulation of such messages among the learners, and in order to avoid the production of such just sentences among the students, I think we have to be very careful about what we choose. As for the suggestions and possible solutions, I would like to talk about some of the actually emergency cases that we have to pay attention to. First of all, we have to have a critical engagement with the text and the visuals and the visual content and the illustrations in the text. And while examining the classroom materials, we have to have a composite and multidimensional analysis of the elements, rather than having a, actually gender stereotypical content is mainly associated with some visible elements, like the visuals or the pictures, but we have to have a multifaceted analysis of the elements. We have to delve into the implicit stereotypes as well. We have to read between the lines and we have to match the text and illustrations and see a global picture that they convey. And we have to be gender sensitive during the teacher training sessions. I mean the pre-service and in-service teacher training sessions, to create an awareness about the patterns of implicit and explicit stereotypes that are visible in these materials. And we have to bear in mind the family context and parental effects on this issue. And we may use some checklist to examine gender equity in language teaching materials, which is my suggestion. There are a number of checklists and guidelines proposed by the scholars in the research area. I will exemplify 3 of them at the end of this presentation. So these checklists may be used to examine gender equality in language teaching materials. So we may still have grounds for optimism because as suggested in the literature, a sharper look at the gender issues sooner or later entails a change in representations and professional practices, hopefully, and creating an awareness of inequality and a desire to action on individual and collective needs levels is needed as far as the global and local contexts are considered, their needs are considered. These behaviors and stereotypical perspectives are learned. It is possible to unlearn these misconceptions, false beliefs, stereotypes, and erroneous attitudes towards the opposite sex. And there is a diachronic study, and in this diachronic study, they revealed that an awareness, we can see an awareness, it is beginning to translate into practice, but we need more time because there is a cultural lag, which means that it will take time to catch up with the technological innovations, the culture and the technological innovations and the social dynamics may not go hand in hand. So it will take time to just turn into practice, translate into practice. So as a conclusion, we see some substantial changes, but sexism, nevertheless, sexism is deeply entrenched within the educational materials. And they are the mirrors of the social culture in a society. And they tend to spread and they tend to regenerate and reinforce sexism in the society as well. So these textbooks and classroom materials are mirrors of us. And they restrict the conceptualization of our present and future identities, including the selection of academic disciplines and career plans. And as Lee suggested in the literature, the gender stereotypes and gender representations are hidden curriculums in the educational context. And they pose sometimes stumbling blocks in students' development of self-identity. And for these reasons, we have to challenge and change the stereotypical content in the classroom materials. And one overall message that I have figured out in line with the research studies and in line with the content that I have analyzed so far in the classroom materials was that we don't see so many overt, explicit stereotypical portrayals in the recent publications. However, they are implicit. They are still there, and we are exposed to these stereotypical content, even though we don't see so many overt representations, but they are still there and they are implicit. And the rate and the number and variety of the illustrations which are gender stereotyped are less visible in these materials, but the texts, along with the reading passages and the audio scripts, still contain some stereotypical content. That is the reason why we have to have a critical eye in examining what we have. So it doesn't mean that we overcome this issue and we don't have stereotypical content anymore. So who is responsible for the existence of this gender-biased content? Everybody is responsible, right? But who's responsible for the solution? I think we have to just figure out the responsibility for the solution. I think everybody is also responsible for the solution. Yeah, exactly. They are just the authorities are trying to provide a number of guidelines. These are some international guidelines, and the Sustainable Development Goal 5, with the number 5, proposed by the United Nations contained a gender equality goal as well. But these two guidelines are very useful in having a critical eye about providing gender equality in educational settings and in classroom materials specifically. So these example guidelines may be used as a maybe a remedial choice. Hocam, yes, Aydan Hocam.
No, I was just trying to show you that maybe we should wrap it up. We
Yeah.
kind of, you know.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, all right. So these are the references that I have used. Thank you so much for listening to me and attending this session with your responses and reactions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, Hocam. I will be more than happy to answer your questions as well.
Sibel Hocam, thank you very much for this highly informative and eye-opening session. In fact, I could listen to you for another hour, but thinking of the participants, whether they have something else to do, I had to interrupt. Sorry.
I'm sorry for
but
the
the
time
content
management.
was so great, but at the same time nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
It was a kind of a roller coaster, you know. We had ups and downs a lot. There are some questions in the chat box, but before that, I just want to say, being a moderator, I have the luxury of stating my opinion. I have learned that the inventor of dishwashers was a woman in an English course book. So that is also something very nice, you know, because I didn't think that it was a woman. I think it was Joel Houghton or someone, I can't remember the name, but course books do have an impact on both teachers and learners. Ali Hocam, as far as I remember, you had a question. Would you like to ask your question now?
Hocam, thank you very much. As I wrote in the chat box, I've been wondering why this grammatical gender exists in languages. And maybe this is the underlying reason behind the gender-biased stereotypes. Maybe they can stem from the languages themselves. So what do you think about this?
Yeah, I'm not sure why some languages have natural gender and some of them do not. But English language as a nature may have an influence on the on how we convey gendered language. So the nature of the language may have an impact on our choices, but we don't have natural gender in Turkish. Zülal Hocam is raising her hand.
Yeah,
Hocam.
Zülal Hocam most probably will bring some
yes
light onto this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Ali Bey, having grammatical gender or has nothing to do with being a sexist society. I had discussed this with Victoria Fromkin, late Victoria Fromkin, many years ago. Grammatical gender by its nature comes from people trying to identify objects, all right? English used to have grammatical gender, lost it. Just there are some remnants like he and she and all that. Most naturally, some languages do have grammatical gender, not in terms of like male, female, or neuter, but like human and non-human. And some languages do not have any gender. But take a language like Turkish, for example, which does not have a grammatical gender. But my God, our society is sexist is that it comes. So it really does not have much to do with this gender discrimination. Language may be part of it, but not very, the way I look at it, it's a very small part of it. It's the society, it's the culture. I believe Japanese don't have a gender, Chinese don't have gender, and look at the Chinese research. So it is the society that makes the textbooks or the culture that is reflected. Bernard says it's the religion, but look, who creates the religion? I mean, it is us, you know.
Yes,
So,
human beings.
so we are not. I won't go into that because I teach mythology. And I can give you a huge explanation. I won't go into that, but I hope this answers your question. It's cultural. It doesn't. I mean, we cannot blame the language.
Yeah. Sibel Hocam, can you please stop sharing your screen because we cannot see? Yes, excellent.
Oh, it's better. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Zülal Hocam, a great answer. If you let me, I would like to add something. Ali Hocam, this has been going around for such a long time. Does society influence language, or does language influence society? You may want to do some sociolinguistic research on this. I think it's kind of a two-way street. It's kind of, you know, society influences language, language influences society and the way we think, but human thinking cannot be limited to language. I mean, we are extremely creative and productive, hopefully, if we have a brain, right? And we know that some human beings do not have one. But what I'm going to say is, I believe when we analyze Turkish, real Turkish, original Turkish is sexless because original Turkish tribes respected men and women equally. Later, I'm not going to go into detail, it has changed. But please, anthropological research will also give you some answers with that. So culture is an incredible concept. It is very hard to give the answer like 2 times 2 is 4. So I'm sorry, there's no direct answer to your question. You need to decide by yourself. Maybe linguistic relativism can also help you if you want to. Oh, Zülal Hocam has been having great fun with that wedding in the background. Okay, and one other question that I have noticed in the chat box, now I lost it. Zeynep Hocam. Zeynep Hocam, do you want me to read your question, or would you like to ask your own question? I know.
You can read it, Hocam. Thank you so much.
Okay. May I ask how you did your coding part of the study? What would you suggest for analyzing the written and visual content of a course book?
Okay, this is a wonderful question, and Zeynep Hocam, there were some such categories which we can use in order to code such data, and you can use content analysis as a way to analyze the data. But for this specific topic, I would like to share my screen again, Hocam. Is it okay, or I can share the resources with Zeynep later on? Which one?
However you like, Hocam, it's up to you. If you want to share them here if you want to share your screen again and show that again, or you can paste them, copy and paste them in the chat box, or Zainab, you can share your email again and Zainab Hoca can contact you later. So
Yeah, I will briefly
Sure,
just
sure.
summarize it. This
Sure.
is the categorization scheme we have used. These are the categories that I have used in the in examining the occurrences of gender pairs. I have used von Leuwen's categorization in order to identify their actions. And I have also used the verb classes proposed by Scheibman. And we have divided these into categories. So I have used these set categories, but sometimes using these set categories may hinder some other extra details visible in the course books. So a data-driven approach may also help you a lot, because in order to not to miss any details in the course book content. Okay, we have set categories, but there may be additional details and additional occurrences that are visible in the course book content. So a data-driven approach always would be better. I will share, if you also want, I can share these references that we have used in the coding the category and in coloring the occurrences in different parts. And I can also share some resources about data-driven analysis. So if you can write your email address on the chat box, I can send you additional details about the coding stages. And yes.
Thank you so much, Hocam. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Or
Pleasure.
Zeynep Hocam, you can also contact Sibel Hocam later, because she has shared her email address with us. And maybe if you're interested in this field, please be interested in the field and, you know, carry out research, really. I also strongly recommend Selmin Söylemez's doctoral dissertation. We worked together, we worked on a similar topic. I'm really interested in this myself. Unfortunately, after some of my sessions, some male participants approached me and said, Hocam, you scared us really. We thought you were going to kill all the male audience members. I said, you deserve it. Shut up and sit down. Well, just joking. Any other questions or any other comments? If you would like to share an experience or a comment, please feel free to do so. You would like to suggest a book to read for fun? Yes, politically correct bedtime stories, definitely. Sedat Hoca also suggests Saldana's book on qualitative analysis, Zeynep Hocam. Okay. I cannot see any other questions. Of course, there are lots of compliments in the chat box. People are thanking you for this excellent, great presentation. They congratulate you for this wonderful work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hocam, I think Berna Hoca has a question.
Oh, okay. Have I missed it?
She hasn't asked yet, but if we have time,
Of course. Berna, Sibel Hocam, do you read minds? How do you know that Berna Hoca has a question?
I read the chat box, Hocam.
Oh, really? I cannot see the, okay. Berna Hocam, would you like to ask your own question?
Yes, first of all, thank you for calling me Hocam, because still I am a student, so it made me feel really good.
Doesn't matter, you're with us, so you're Berna Hocam. Go ahead.
So what would you suggest a student for being more aware of these gender stereotypes and how we can transfer these equalities through our teaching style and methodologies? Like, how can we actually apply these, I'm not going to say correct, but maybe ideal teaching styles to the new teacher candidates, let's say?
Well, Sibel Hocam has already
Yeah.
shared some suggestions towards the end of the presentation, but because the time was limited, so she had to go a little bit too fast, maybe. If you're interested, why don't you contact Sibel Hocam and ask for that information, because that will require another 15 minutes, I guess, because the suggestions part was not that short. So, Bena Hocam, sorry, but you missed that information. Yes, Şebnem Hocam, I know. We have excellent speakers. So we never get tired and bored of listening to them. But how about the speakers themselves? Can you imagine how tired Sibel Hoca is right now?
I'm
See?
not tired.
You're not tired. You're asking for it now, Sibel Hoca. More questions are coming.
Yeah.
Well, don't forget that INGET is a Language Teachers Association. So anyone who joins our sessions is hocam for us, okay? Well, Zülal Hocam, for example, has the privilege to call anyone any way she likes, because she's the hocaların hocası. Okay? But otherwise, you're all hocam for us.
Thank you, Aydan. Thank you.
Ne demek hocam? We cannot thank you enough. I mean, you literally started ELT in this country. Özden hocam, you, Çiğdem hocam, Hüsnü hocam, Sabri hocam, Cem hocam. I mean, you were the founders, mothers and fathers of ELT in this country. We are babies. Look at me being a baby now.
Well, we are the dinosaurs and you are the baby dinos.
Hocam, I cannot call myself a baby dino.
But, well, as long as I'm around, you're a baby dino.
Oh, no,
Aydan.
hocam, come on. Sibel hocam, when I was, Ali hocam, I will definitely give you the stage, but Sibel hocam, when I was working with the Ministry of Education and writing a course book, we definitely needed a clip art for a female judge. Believe it or not, well, of course, I'm talking about 10 years ago. I don't know whether it's easy right now to find one. I couldn't find one free clip art for a female judge. Isn't that sad?
Yes.
So in
it
the
is.
Western world as well. I mean, in Turkey, we don't have clip art for sale, I guess. I don't know. But 10 years ago, it took me hours to find. I failed to find one. And then I asked a teacher to draw one for us. So, and female judges are so common. They are not that uncommon.
Yeah.
They are
not
everywhere.
visible, hocam. They are not visible.
Yeah, that's the issue, I believe.
Yeah.
They are not visible. Yeah. Şebnem hocam, who are we going to gossip about? I can always gossip about anyone, but who are you suggesting?
Nobody, just kidding. We can continue talking. It is just for,
Well,
it is
the-
just a joke. It was
yeah.
just a joke.
The topic is so, I don't know, rich,
Yes,
if you
true.
excuse the expression. We can talk about it for hours, for ages, for
Yes,
years.
true.
I mean, definitely.
Aydan, I think Ali Hoca had his hand
Ali
up.
Hocam, yes. See, Ali Hocam, being a woman, I'm gonna keep you waiting.
Hocam, it's a pleasure for me always.
Ali Hocam, you're such a nice person. Yes, Ali Hocam, go ahead, please.
Hocam, two things I will say. First one, you're right. The female judges, unfortunately, are not visible so much. But last year, the most powerful judge on the planet Earth was a female. International Criminal Court, the chief prosecutor of that high court was a female from Gambia, Fatou Bensouda. And this year, it's an Afghan male judge.
Oh,
So,
hooray.
yeah, you're right. Although they're not visible, there are many high-profile female judges internationally and in our country as well.
Yes.
And the second thing, after watching Ustalarla Söyleşi with Zülal Hocam, to be honest, I didn't know her because my age, you know, I'm young.
Ali Hocam, be careful.
I'm just joking, Hocam. I'm 37 years. And then I searched on Google and oh my God, she's I don't know how to define her.
Yes.
And then I saw her pictures on Anadolu University, Uzaktan Eğitim, I think. And she reminded me of Diane Larson Freeman. You know that
really?
author? Yeah, because in our courses at university in approach and methods in ELT course, we always watch her videos. And it was a very meaningful and exciting coincidence for me. So I'm very honored to know her.
Thank you, Ali Hocam. Thank you. That's very kind of you. Please don't embarrass me.
Well, actually, Ali Hocam, as you know, that is the aim of Ustalarla Söyleşi. That's why we started that, because amazingly, we know Diane Larson Freeman, we know Douglas Brown, we know, I don't know, I can't remember the other names right now, but we don't know our own scholars who have done a great job in this country. They all started this field. In the past, there was nothing like this. It was only literature or linguistics, okay? That's why, as INGED, we decided to have those series. Unfortunately, some of the masters have passed away, but these are going to be historical documents for anyone who is in a ELT. So they will get to know these people, these wonderful people, and we have learned from them a lot. Well, there are other professors, but these figures are the most important ones, to be politically correct.
Another person that you need to meet is İlknur Hocam, but she is camera shy for the moment.
That's why I said, would you like to be a guest? But she's she said later, maybe not now. Joshua Hoca, I will also invite Joshua Hoca. Well, he didn't work in ELT field, but he's a wonderful sociolinguistics scholar. His work, oh my God, amazing, especially the comparative Turkish English literature, especially Nasreddin Hoca, I believe he had wonderful studies. So I'm planning to do that if I can survive. You know how frequently I fall down and break something. Well, Sibel Hocam, I don't know how to thank you, really. All of the participants are saying that they have benefited a lot. They loved your session. Thank you very much. And hopefully we will keep in touch.
Exactly, Hocam.
Because I would definitely like to follow your studies as well.
Thank you so much.
You're doing great job.
Thanks, Hocam.
And
Yeah,
you never know, maybe one day again, like in the future, you'd like to have another session with us.
Yeah, it will be a pleasure for me, Hocam. This is a great source of motivation for me to conduct further studies on my own field. And I would like to say a few more words if we have time and wrap it up. First of all, I would like to thank İlknur Keçik Hocam for supporting me through the whole academic journey that I have been conducting. She is always inspiring me and supporting me. And also I would like to thank Zülal Balpınar Hocam for being here. I have learned the norms of the academic career and academic life with her, and I have learned a lot of details in line with the academic culture, and I'm trying to implement what I have learned there and in Anadolu University here in my new institution. So I'm grateful to these wonderful two women who are just here with us, and to you as well for giving me the chance to meet with this wonderful audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you again. And as usual, thank you, my dear colleagues, for being with us and spending your Friday evening with us. But I know that you're satisfied, and because I am, and I hope to see you next week with Ali Hoca's session. I'm looking forward to that. Take good care of yourselves. Stay safe. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Stay safe.